Welcome to sequence number 3. In sequence 3, we introduce a new pose called downward facing dog. This pose can be challenging for some people, but don't worry, in sequence 2 we worked on many of the fundamentals we need to safely get into this pose. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to safely get into downward facing dog, as well as some alternatives if you feel like you're just not quite ready. We're going to start in a familiar pose, tabletop position. From here, we're going to first do puppy pose. In order to get into puppy pose, we're going to keep our hips directly below our knee while we reach our hands out in front of us. We're reaching until our elbows are completely straight, and as we're doing this, we're dropping our chest towards the ground. Our goal is to create a nice straight line between our fingertips and our tailbone. We want to make sure that we don't drop into an unsafe position here, which is like this. You can see what I'm doing here puts a big sway into my back. In order to prevent this, we're going to bring the focus back to our belly button, lifting it up towards the sky, up towards our spine, and engaging our abs like someone's going to punch us in the stomach and we're ready for it. You'll notice that there's a straight line between my fingertips and my tailbone, creating a nice, safe, and protected position for our spine. If this is your first time doing this pose, you may notice that you look a little bit more like this. This is because your shoulders aren't quite flexible to make a straight line, and that's completely fine. We'll work on that shoulder flexibility during these sequences. What you want to focus on is extending your arms out in front of you, super strong and engaged, and continuously trying to drop that chest further and further towards the ground. You may think that this pose looks a lot like our resting pose that we've done before, our modified child's pose. And let me just review the difference with that. For our modified child's pose, we drop our hips back and straighten our arms forward, relaxing down into this position. This is a much more relaxed position. For puppy pose, we're keeping our hips up towards the sky. We are pressing actively into the ground, extending our shoulders, straightening our elbows, and dropping our chest towards the ground, keeping that belly button tucked up towards the sky. Okay. If that pose feels like too much for you still, and you need to focus a little bit more on your shoulders, what you can do is set up this tabletop right in front of a couch or a chair. From your tabletop position, you want to put the palms of your hands on that couch or chair that's approximately at your shoulder level. Reach your hands strongly out in front of you, extending those shoulders, and press your chest towards the ground. Once again, you can create that straight line between your fingertips and tailbone, keeping your belly button sucked up towards the sky, nice and strong. Once you're feeling comfortable in this position, you can then try your puppy pose once again in this position. All right. From puppy pose, we're going to work on coming to downward facing dog. Let's get back into our position here. Remember, we should never be extending our hips back or getting a sway in our back. Keep our hips up and our belly button tucked in. From here, we want to push strongly into our hands while we just walk our toes up to the ground, keeping a nice big bend in your knees. You'll notice that my body position above my hips stays pretty much in the same position, that straight line from our fingertips to our tailbone. You may only be able to hold this position for a couple seconds at first, and that's perfectly okay. If so, come right back down to your puppy pose. If we're here and we're feeling okay with that, you can walk your feet out by straightening one knee and then the other knee. This creates a gentle stretch in the back of our knee, our hamstrings. Unless this feels really easy, we should never really be trying to straighten our knees here. It takes people who practice yoga many years before they can get in downward facing dog with both knees absolutely straight. So I want you to focus having a nice big bend in your knees. You might notice that when you're in this position, that your hands want to slide out from beneath you. If that's the case,
try to play around with your foot position, a little bit forward, a little bit back, where you feel the most stable. But really, it just takes practice. Only stay here for as long as it's getting comfortable, and if you feel like you're uncomfortable, feel free to come back down to our easier poses.